excited to be the chair of this room for the session 2, Marketing in an Era of Rapid Change. And in this room, we have 5 presenters. And allow me if I call your name by, with some mistake, because it's hard to pronounce. So we have the first presenter. International University School of Business, Vietnam. So, welcome, Dr. Dung Việt Trinh. For the second presenter, Mr. Duy Thanh Tăng, and with the paper title, Factors that Impact on Revisit Intention of Patient in Private Healthcare Service in Ho Chi Minh City, and from International School of Business, Vietnam too. The third presenter, Dr. or Mr. I don't know, no title here, Mr. Smith Rodrutikanwan. You here? Yes. Okay. Paper title, Exploring the Factors Impact Credit Card Spending Behavior Among People in Bangkok, Thailand, from Assumption University. Thank you. The fourth paper and presenter, I myself and the other co-author, Ms. Võ Ngọc Thảo Nguyên, right? With paper title, A Conceptual Model of Antecedent of Organic Cosmetic Repurchase Intention, Study on the Factors Influence, Repurchase Intention. And we also from International University, Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. And the last presenter, Mr. Mrs. Thanadun Kison, right? Thanadun Kison, are you here? So we still lack of the last presenter with the paper, a study on the factors influencing customer intention to use mobile banking, a case study of intention to use among generation toward using mobile banking service in Bangkok area from Assumption University. So I would like to invite the first presenter, Dr. Dung Việt Trinh, and you have 15 minutes for your presentation. Thank you.
Exchange. These people, the consumer in Vietnam, also change in terms of their behavior, in terms of their wants. And this study is exactly about that. Now, the definition of consumerism is consumptions involved in the creation and maintenance of social relationships.
Dr. Yu, can you use the microphone for the recording?
Okay, right. So the consumptions is involved in the creations and maintenance of social relationship. Consumer try to transform the link between themselves and the society through consumption. In another word, the way they purchase or consuming the products actually sending signal about themselves and trying to fit in the groups. So that is the basics theories of consumerism. As I mentioned before, this study is a follow-up study of my previous PhD, which I did in 2012. Now, just to give you a quick picture about it. In 2012, I collected data from 1,400 consumers in Vietnam in 3 biggest cities, Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, and Da Nang in the central. The objective of the 2012 study was to measuring the materialistic of the consumer in Vietnam. And what I found is, in the north, people were using material possessions in order to sending signal about their success. And because of that, they also want to be a little bit different from the rest of the groups. However, in the southern Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh City, people pursuing the happiness through the joy of shopping. So it is about material happiness. They shop because it makes them happy. And in the central, even though the materialistic score of the central part of Vietnam is quite low, it indicated that they need the material possession as an essentiality. So that was the basics of my scale for measuring materialistic. Basically, we have material success, material happiness, material essentiality, and finally, material distinctiveness. Now, this follow-up study was actually conducted 2 years ago in 2017. And in 2017, we decided to follow up the study in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, where we have high materialistic trait. And the total sample size was 600 people. For the part that I'm presenting today, it is about the qualitative study that we conducted as the follow-up. We also measure the materialistic scale again, just to validate it. And we follow up by having the main qualitative study, asking people to write a story about consuming international brand in 15 to 20 minutes. So they have to write it down. And we also conduct follow-up in-depth study, and we also have 4 observation cases. All of these data collections were conducted using a professional market research agency. So we have the reliability and the validity. Now for the observation study, the 4 cases here is actually observing the whole week of their life. So they agree for us to video film them. So we have them on videotape, and then we just follow them throughout the day to see what kind of brand do they use, what kind of place do they go for breakfast, and just normal observations data. So back to materialism a little bit. For those of you who are not very familiar with materialism, basically the theory suggested that materialisms have 2 latent. The first one is conspicuous consumption. You consume, you use the product so that other people can observe you. And the second part is status consumption. Now, status consumption is the quiet, faceless of materialism. In status consumption, you're using the product for yourself. So in conspicuous consumption, we have respond in the in-depth interviews such as, I want to show off my stuff. I want to have people talking about my possessions. We in conspicuous consumption, we attract attention to convey the message about the existence of our product, of their product. And therefore, individuals believe that the materialisms would be only appreciated if they show off their property. In status consumptions, the participant in Ho Chi Minh City, there's one case, she spent quite a lot of money, more than 2 months of salary, in purchasing a Burberry bags. Now, the reason why she bought this product is because she has a great admiration for the British royal family. And by purchasing this, she thinks that she would be connected to her idol. Okay? And she doesn't care if her friend thinks this is a fake product, because actually in Vietnam you can pretty much find fake product everywhere. So she went to the Burberry store, pay a huge amount of money to get the bag, and then she doesn't care about what people think. She purchased it for herself. And that is status consumption. Now, in our data, after we run the content analysis using NVivo, we found out that 4 factors actually dictating consumerism in urban area of Vietnam. First, taste. Second, the influential. And then you got the parents. And the last part is a little bit interesting because it's a mixture of culture and politics. We have socialism and then the Confucianism. Consumer would negotiate among these factors to convey the aspect of their social identity. Right? And how? I will explain in the following slide here. Taste. In taste, a lot of people say, well, money cannot buy taste, especially with the new rich. In the booming of economies in Vietnam, it results in the whole new generation of what we call new money or new rich. These people would like to purchase the most expensive product, but then they do not know much about these products, the heritage or the traditions, the custom of these products. And well, one respondent from Ho Chi Minh City also mentioned that not anyone knows how to buy stuff with money, even if they are rich, right? For example, if they want to have a very expensive watch, they just go to the Rolex store to purchase the most expensive one. But then Rolex is, you know, in luxury brandings, it's just a very general luxury brand. If you want to have the real luxury, you go to Patek Philippe, you go to other store, depending on your characteristic. Because if you are purchasing a product, a mere luxury entry brand, it's just meaning that you are rich and you do not have a good taste. Now, key opinion leaders or influential are becoming more and more powerful in terms of shaping the consumerism. Now, KOLs, we define them as the keeper of flame for ideas. And the KOL marketing works in Vietnam because the influencer engage with the follower, making themselves more relatable. And a large number of Vietnamese are paying more attention to KOL. For example, this one, she's not pretty, right? She's not pretty, she's not famous. But then she's just an average girl. However, whenever she reviews any product, people actually relate to her more than a pretty model or a pretty celebrity. Okay? And she become one of the most influential KOL in Vietnam, right? And then you got parents, right? Strong family ties are still unique to the context of Vietnam, especially in the north. Especially in the north. And parent perception of face work through consumption. So depending on the families, if their parents put more value into face value Now in Asian, we talk about face value quite often. And it is your duty to keep up the face for the whole families. And then it's also influence younger generation choice whenever it choosing between the image of what they want. They want to be cool or keeping the face of the family. So you would see that young people in Vietnam, they have tattoo, right? They have tattoo, they're thinking it's a cool message, right? But whenever it comes to a family gathering, you would see them wearing long sleeve, covering up everything, right? And then the last part is culture. We found out that culture, especially socialisms and Confucianisms, are actually tearing the consumer in Vietnam a little bit. Some of them want to be seen as, well, as we say before, cool. But then they have to negotiate between to have and want to be to achieve certain purpose and involve certain social interaction. For example, here we have a case when people working for the state and they have to care about the socialist image and public image when they appear in certain event. So both of these events are charity. Both of the events are charity. Here we have a celebrity, all right? And then when she came to this event, she wearing, you know, gown, dress, right? And this side, we have this actually a singer, but then she also involved in the youth union. And then when she go to the charity event, she wearing, you know, tuck-in shirt and then jeans. So the image that these celebrities are portraying, one is socialist and one is just public image for themselves. So in conclusion, I know I only have 2 minutes left. In conclusions, the urban consumer in Vietnam is shifting from the culture of discipline, trying not to indulge themselves, and then they're moving a little more toward the culture of pleasure seekings. They want to be more indulging. Hofstede actually find the same outcome in his culture, in the annual culture survey. And the thing is, however, there's still a very deep root of culture of collectivistic in Vietnam, and it's actually restraining the growth of material seeking. So we are seeing the rise of material standard, more and more international brand entering Vietnam, but then it ceases to add more happiness, because when you purchase over a certain level, then the more possession you acquire actually does not help you to feel more happy anymore. And it actually go back to the consumer society, right? So that's the trend of Vietnam right now. And we are hoping to continue to measure this in the future in order to provide more managerial input for brand and international companies as well. So that's it from my part. Thank you. Exactly on the time. Yes.
In your terms.
Can you just repeat the question again?
You mentioned about KOL earlier, keeper
Yes.
of the flame for the ideas consumption. Is it the same like NIDA? Very much so?
Idol is a little bit more about entertainment.
Right.
Yeah. KOLs, they could be just a simple person, but then an ordinary person, but then customer or consumer, they can relate to them in terms of, for example, you are using cosmetics. And, you know, cosmetic, it depends on your skin type, your body type, and a lot of things. And if you are able to relate to an ordinary person, it's going to be very different with a celebrity or an idol. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, welcome. Right. Is there any other questions or feedback?
So I also really interested On the KOL, as you mentioned, in Vietnam, as you know, that we also have the terms like fashionista or reviewers of your social network or something like that. So is it also considered to the KOL, as you mentioned?
Thank you, Chair. Now, the KOLs, they first started with the celebrity endorsement, right? So KOL first started with celebrity. But then later on, brand found out that the normal people, the ordinary people actually have a better credential when they review the product. Fashionitas or product reviewer are, well, they are not really famous yet, but they try to establish their credential in certain aspects. For example, fashionista, they would be seen as people with style, people with fashion knowledge. And product reviewer in general are KOL. Yeah, so all of the terms that you mentioned are actually belong to the KOL marketings, and yes, yeah, right? So
one last question, if you have.
Popular platform for them. Well, in Vietnam, the most popular platform actually Facebook. Second is Instagram, and then YouTube. The reason is Facebook is widely used in Vietnam. Instagram being purchased by Facebook, and therefore it's suddenly increased in rankings. 5 years ago, nobody cared about Instagram. And nowadays, with YouTube, YouTube actually, they have a dedicated teams in Vietnam to support the KOL, to giving them the silver button, the gold buttons. If you have a silver play button from YouTube, you have to get over a certain amount of subscriber. I remember it's about 50,000. And every YouTube reviewer that you done online, if it reach over, let's say, 1 million views, YouTube actually pay you a lot of money in extra to the brand money that they already paid. And therefore, YouTube is becoming a significant tool in Vietnam recently. Right? Okay. Thank you for your question. I think that's enough.
So thank you very much for Dr. Dũng. Very short. You keep time very well, and thank you for a very interesting paper about consumerism culture in the urban Vietnam. So now may I introduce the second presenter, Mr. Duy Thanh Tăng, and his study focus on the healthcare service and the focus on the revisit intention of patients. So welcome.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to attend this business conference today. Now, I will introduce about myself. My name is Duy Thanh Tăng, and my co-author is Dr. Quang Nhật Hồ. He's a vice rector of our university, and I'm a senior student of school business. And today, I will talk about the factors that impact on revisit intention of patients in private healthcare service in Ho Chi Minh City. First, I divide it into 5 parts. First is introduction, literature review, and hypothesis development. The first is the methodologies, data analysis, and conclusion and recommendations. Now I will move to the introduction. First, I will introduce about Ho Chi Minh City, and its population was 8.4 million, and more than 13 million in the metropolitan area in 2017. And the economy is a financial center of Vietnam, and it contributes to nearly 22% GDP and 28% 8% of total national purchase revenue in 2018. And about the tourism, Ho Chi Minh is the most visited city in Vietnam with the 7.5 million visitors in 2018. Now I will talk about definition about healthcare service. This is one of the most important service to the communities and a knowledge-based service that diagnose body and identify reality of patients and give solutions by using intellectual capital. And as we know, the GDP and the life standard of Vietnamese people increase every year. That means they are more conscious about their health, like eating fresh and organic foods, beauty and gyms. So I think the healthcare service is the most growing factors in Vietnam. But there's still a tremendous problem, like the reputable national level hospital illustrate the extreme high occupancy rate over 100%, like 119%. And because of the low quality service and the length the patient stay in the hospital in Vietnam are quite long, about 7 days in 2009, compared to the Thailand and Singapore, just about 6.5 and 4 days. And moreover, there are 40,000 Vietnamese patients go abroad for treatment. Now I have 3 objectives: building up conceptual model and theoretical model, and identify factors that impacts on the revisit intention. And the third is I give the radical recommendation and solution for both private and public hospital to improve the quality service. From the objective, I have 3 questions. I will go briefly. And the scope, I target the patient from some private hospital, and the respondent use at least one time the service in some private hospital, and they live in Ho Chi Minh City. And the limitation is the financial capacities, and the research was conducted in one city. That's Ho Chi Minh City. And there are 5 private hospitals. I just collect the data. Now I will go to the literature review. And the first is the service quality, patient satisfaction, just, cost perception, convenient, word of mouth, hospital image, and revisit intentions. And so that I conduct 11 hypotheses. And this is my conceptual model. And I use 5 reverse papers to conduct my conceptual model. And we move to the methodologies. First, about the research method, I use the quantitative research methods. And I design the questionnaire and I distribute it online form and on-site surveys. And there are 424 valid surveys. And I use the 5-point Likert scale. And the analysis tools I use is SPSS and AMOS. And here's the data analysis sample demographics. And there are 424 valid about 94.2%. And I have some 3 questions that the respondent need to answer. Have you ever had to check up in private hospital? And which private hospital did you choose to have a checkup from the list of hospitals I mentioned above? And how many times have you come to this private hospital for treatment? Now I will go to briefly the data analysis. After the data analysis, I conduct the hypothesis with the result. I delete the hypothesis 3, hypothesis 2, and hypothesis 7 out of the model because of the invalid data. And in this result, I saw that the service qualities in physical equipment account for nearly 30%. So in the recommendation, I just focused on these factors. Now I come to the conclusion and recommendation. As we know, there are many innovations from the service industry. So I can adapt it into Vietnam. Firstly, about the annual SMS and call for patient to check up. The second is the 24 hours hotline and the chatbot. And these things, they need to receive the complaint and they have to respond and give the solution for that patient. And private hospitals should equip the 3D printing in medicine. Artificial intelligence should implement it in assisting the doctor in surgery. And we should apply more the biosensor and tracker to help the doctor to collect the data, and then they will pass on the data to give the solution for the patients. And moreover, in many foreign countries, they build their ecosystem in their hospital for patients to not only for treatment, they also enjoy the fresh air in their hospital. This is the summary of some summary that I mentioned above. Now we move to the new part. In 2018, Facebook, Instagram, and Google has built an app that they can control the tech usage, and then they will disconnect their device to give the user good health habit. And then I recommend that many private hospitals should build an app which has the same role like this app for free and for patients, that they can they use the app to collect the data from the biosensor and tracker and then automatically give the solution to the patient through the apps on the phone or or tablet. And moreover, they should organize many workshops like first aid for baby and try for reparent, and who will be the parent in the future. This is the summary of that I talk about. And the last one about the private hospital should create more promotional package like a family checkup, and they also cooperate with the enterprise to run the promotion that that many employees can access to the service of this hospital. Thank you for listening. Do you have any question? Can you repeat again?
Okay. I'm not sure that you talking about the topic. So it should be about the factor of the patient decision to revisit or not revisit this hospital in Vietnam.
He want to
About the factor of decision about
the patient, right?
decide to revisit or not revisit this hospital in Vietnam.
The factors that patient pays on is the first about the service qualities. I divide it into 4 parts. First is they based on the physical equipment, and the second is the interaction between the patient and the doctors, and the third is the process. That means it's fast to have the checkup, and fourth is the outcome of the service qualities that patient can receive.
But you can, for more detail, could you share me about the detail about the service quality or efficiency of the treatment about the doctor? What kind of the service quality?
Right, because the term service quality is quite very broad and very abstract, right? It can be, you know, if you apply the model proposed by Parasuraman and college, service quality is different with the practice in the hotel, because yeah, so he wants you to make sure that what kinds of service quality you want to study there.
I want to study the in this service qualities I analyze based on 4 factors that the subscale, the 4 small subscale. First about the physical equipment and the interaction and process and the outcome. That's I create the questionnaire to analyze them.
This is a method that proposed by the previous scholar to measure the service
Yes,
quality.
I use on the factors that from the healthcare sector. And because the overall of the national reputable hospital in Vietnam, so the government of Vietnam has the policy that public and private partnership to encourage more people and investor to create more private hospital to reduce the overall of the national hospital.
Okay, so one more thing, that is also my concern when I read your research title, because one of the problem in Vietnam is the public sector is not the hotel in private sector, because you know that we on a good doctor, they want to work for the public sector, and then they go to work for the public hospital, and no matter the salary is very, very low. Just because that when they work for public sector, they can build their name, then they can open the clinic outside. So why you choose to study in private sector instead of the public one? Because public sector's hospital is really the big issue right now, in Vietnam.
As I mentioned, because first, many people in Vietnam choose to go to the Ho Chi Minh City and find the popular hospital that can cause some overall in Ho Chi Minh City. So I choose the private hospital to have the deep view for the investor and the managers of many hospitals, and that they can improve their service, and more potential investor come to Vietnam to establish the private hospital. So that I choose this topic to find the factors that impact.
Yes. So thank you for your part.
Thank you for listening.
Okay. So now we come to the next paper with the Thailand context, and this study look at the consumer behavior in banking sector. So welcome, Mr. Smith.
credit card spending behavior of people in Bangkok, Thailand. First of all, let's talk about what is the credit card first. Credit card is one of the most popular method of payment nowadays. It is very popular among the people in terms of global using and in Thailand as well. And in Thailand, many people decide to use credit card rather than cash or check. The main reason is are the convenience, because people no need to bring the cash to get along with their wallets. They can just use a credit card, and it is very safety. In terms of using, they rather than use a credit card via offline merchants, and they just use the card. No need to bring the cash. For the online purpose, it is very secure right now because there are many security options to help the credit card user to secure their transaction via online. And once the credit card is being very popular nowadays, and it become to my statement of problem about the demographic of the people in Thailand. As you can know that nowadays, when people grow up, they have higher income, right? The different income of people may lead to different spending behavior of people, and even the marital status or the occupation of the people right now as well. Once people have one kind of occupation, may have different spending behavior of the people in another occupations. So it become to be my research objective to explore the factor impact credit card spending behavior among people in Bangkok, Thailand. I have read so many articles and found that the conceptual framework of the paper in Malaysia is very similar to my research objective. So right now it become to be my conceptual framework, which contains of 6 hypotheses. The hypothesis 1 until 4 is the demographic factors that affect the difference of the demographic information can lead to different spending behavior of people. And hypothesis 5A until hypothesis 5C is about the benefit given, qualification of applying credit card, and payment policy has significant impact to the credit card spending behavior. And the last hypothesis, hypothesis 6A until 6C, is about the willingness to pay, awareness about the total debt owed, and management of income and expense of the people has significant impact on the credit card spending behavior. For the research methodology, the target population is the people who live in Bangkok consecutively more than 6 months. And all of them should have their own credit card and use it within 6 months as well. The data collection method that I apply for my study is the online questionnaire. I distribute it from Google online form. And the type of question in my questionnaire are multiple choices and 5-point Likert scale. The sample size for the questionnaire distribution is about 400 people. 400 respondents, and the people for pilot test is 38 respondents. And the sample method that I apply for my study is the non-probability sampling method. There are convenience sampling and quota sampling. For the result, as you can see from the table H1, the p-value is less than 0.05, so it means that the age, the different age of the people can lead to the different spending behavior. Sorry, I'm not sure the detail, but from my study, I can see that the people who have age higher than 40 has different spending behavior from the people who are younger. For the hypothesis 2, p-value also less than 0.05 as well, so it means that the difference of income level of people have different spending behavior as well. From the result, I can remember that the people who have income higher than 40,000 has different spending behavior compared with the people who have lower income. And the next one is about the occupation. P-value is also less than 0.05 as well. The people who have different occupation can have a different spending behavior. The finding is the people who is freelance has different spending behavior compared with the people who are the business owner. The last demographic information is about the marital status. I can found that the p-value is more than 0.05, so it's not support. The people who are married or single, they still have the same spending behavior. And the last one is about the multiple linear regression that I apply for my study. All of them has p-value less than 0.05. So it means that all the factors in the framework has significant impact on the credit card spending behavior, and the adjust R-square is is about 20%. So it means that all independent variable can explain the dependent variable by about 20%. Lastly, for the recommendation and further study, as I found that the spending behavior of people are different, right? So the bank issuer should have the separate campaign based on the income of the card holder, so they can stimulate the spending of the card holder for to increase their revenue generation. And next one is the bank issuer should better have a flexible pay plan and installment pay plan in order to stimulate the spending for the people who have low income, so they can separate their payment into many transactions, many months, rather than just pay it into a big amount. Last one is the attractive offer for first-time application with spending condition. As you can see that many bank issuers right now, when they want to acquire more new card members, they try to tie in the new premiums or any sampling of items to give to the card members. Lastly, for the further research study, I think it would be better to use the most updated information, because right now for the credit card spending, for the credit card industry, the information comes very fast and go very fast. So the most updated information will be very helpful. And last one, the area quota sampling should be applied, because the topic of my study is about people in Bangkok, right? For my study, I don't do the separate, the area quota sampling equally, because what I think at that time is that I collect the information from people in Bangkok, but it would be better if I use the quota sampling area data collection, so it will reflect to the attitude of people in Bangkok equally, not just people in some area. I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you. Any question?
Thank you. Right, thank you for your presentations. It looked like you create a very nice infographic there.
Thank you.
Now, I also did some research into financial sector before, and I find that usually demographic information, it would be better if you use it as a moderating factor. Okay, and in order to build a strong conceptual model, well, what you're having there is bank policies, and then you got some attitude toward the spending. Previous study indicated that for credit card, especially credit card, in established market, it usually the promotion that trigger the spending. And have you looked at how many credit cards that your respondent have?
Actually, I don't find that deep information, but what I'm trying to find at that time is that I want to make sure that all of them have credit card, have their own credit card.
Yeah, having a credit card is a little bit different with having multiple credit cards. With certain respondents, when they have multiple credit cards, some of them try to financing their expense by rolling, which means I'm going to use a Citi card this month. Next month, I'm using HSBC when I'm paying back the Citi card, because each card have 45 days cooling off area, right? So for respondents, if they are using credit card, and you would find that if they are a little bit financial savvy, they would try to finance their spending through multiple cards. And what makes them spending more is actually promotion from each bank. And when you put all of those information back into a framework, for example, you can use theory of reason actions or theory of planned behavior. You incorporate that with the demographic information as a model ratings, and then you run the whole model again. I'm sure that you would find very, very good information that not only portrays how the credit card user in Bangkok is using, but then also reflecting how banks are actually competing. All right, that's my feedback.
Thank you very much.
Recent action, right? So, and theory of planned behavior, because, for example, for credit card here, the perceived is abuse is also very important. For example, in Vietnam, one bank I used to use before, and they just have one branch for payment. So it feels very big problems, because, and they also don't have the online payment too. So I feel difficult to do the transaction there, so I stopped using the credit card. And perceived risk is also lacking in your study, right? Because the perceived risk is also very important factor.
Actually, the perceived risk is not indicated in my study.
Okay, so when last comment, can you try to explain why your R squared quite small because the sample size quite big, but the R squared your study is quite small, just about 23%. So can you try to explain that?
For the R square, I'm not so sure why it's quite so high, but for the previous study, I mean the paper that I read and bring their concept, their framework to be my conceptual framework, the R square is quite similar. Yeah, but I'm still not sure what is the main root cause of the high R square. Thank you very much for your feedback.
So we have two more papers from the list, but I'm not sure that the last presenter coming up. So the next presenter, that's also my co-author, and she will present the paper in the context of organic cosmetic consumption. So please welcome.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nguyen, and I'm a student of the International University. Today, I will present my paper entitled "That is the Conceptual Model of the Antecedent of Organic Cosmetic Representation." My presentation has three parts. The first is the introduction, the second is the literature review, and the final is the conclusion, implication, and limitation of the conference. Let's start with the first part, the introduction, to talk the background market all over the world and the vessel in Vietnamese. In the foreign market, the customer who living in the developed countries such as the American, the Australia, or the Europe Union is willing to buy the organic cosmetic, and according to the research of the Union Europe Union in 2016, the sales volume of the organic cosmetic is highly increased from 22.4 to 47.4 euro in 2016, about increase 110%. Besides that, in the Vietnamese market, having 18% citizens use the cosmetic per year in 2017, but in that, having consuming 20% to 50% use the organic cosmetic. And I having two reasons to do this conference. The first is the chemical ingredient occupation. Nowadays, because of some profit, the manager will change the natural ingredient by the chemical ingredient. It will have directly for the skin, but it also have bad effect with the human health, such as the skin damage or the cancer. And the final is having a little study of rebuying behavior of organic cosmetic. And my conference is have to absorb the Vietnamese consumer perception, investigate the relationship among the independent and dependent factor with the repurchase intention, and propose the implication for the manager to enhance the repurchase intention organic cosmetic. In the literature review, I will have defined some key factors such as the organic cosmetic, repurchase intention, and show the level standard of the international certification. And the organic cosmetic is made by the natural plant, that's a plant in the fresh soil, which don't have any impact by the toxic or the chemical. And the repurchase intention is the customer hunger to willing a product or brand again. And having three organizations to certify the organic cosmetic is the natural, the USDA in the Australia, in the American, and the also in the Europe Union. Based on the review study of Malaysia and the two reviews of Malaysia, I have setting of 9 hypotheses of my model. It will have 4 factors will have directly to the attitude toward to repurchase intention of the customer. It's a flow from the hypothesis 1 to hypothesis 5, and the customer satisfaction attitude and the reimbursement value is have the directly effect to the organic cosmetic repurchase intention of the customer. In the final part, the implication. In the implication, my conference will have the Vietnamese people have the deeply understand about the organic cosmetic, and the manager also have the develop the strategy to refine their product with the suitable with the Vietnamese customer. And the future study also pay more attention to the citizens who live in the rural and suburban area in the Vietnam. And the limitation is my conference is just focus about the urban cities such as the Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi. Only do not have relate on the influence factor for the repurchase intention, and few people participate in the surveys. And thank you for your listening. Do you have any question?
About the time of sending this paper to the conference, she just focused on the theoretical framework, but after that already conducted the empirical data and the result. So if possible, would you please share about the result of the study? If you come back with the framework and then you can share the result of the study, if possible.
The result of the study is have the environmental concepts, the product knowledge, the safety value, and the customer satisfaction have the high positive effect to the attitude toward repurchase intention of the customer. The health conscious don't have high reliability in my survey, so that I reject it from my model. And the real specific value is directly affect to the customer satisfaction and the organic cosmetic repurchase intention. The customer satisfaction is have highest impact to the attitude and the organic cosmetic repurchase intention, so that the manager is need by more focus on the customer satisfaction. And beside that, the product knowledge also have the high situation to impact the attitude toward repurchase intention.
And maybe the audiences here also know very well about the organic cosmetic, because as I observed in Thailand, it's very popular. So can you also mention about organic cosmetic in Vietnam in order to get more information from Thailand side?
Because the Vietnamese also use the chemical ingredient to have the high quickly improve their skin, so that they use the chemical ingredient cosmetic. They don't use the organic cosmetic because don't use the organic cosmetic, and they think the organic cosmetic is can improve your skin and can improve your skin, and some organic cosmetic is really cheap for the chemical. When you compare for the chemical, it's really cheap, and they think chips not have the highly effective, so that they use the chemical ingredient. And in some blogger of the cosmetic beauty blogger in the Vietnam, they also PR for the chemical cosmetic is really much, so that the citizens focus on the chemical cosmetic. They don't like the organic cosmetic. And in the some just have a little citizen in the urban, in the two big city of the Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, like the organic cosmetic, and a lot of people who live in the urban or the suburban is just like the chemical. They don't like the organic and the natural of the cosmetic.
So thank you for sharing. That's finished our part, and we have the last presenter. So welcome, Mr. Thanadon Kisen. Right. So for mobile banking, is it right? Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Assumption University in Thailand, today we would like to present a topic regarding to the factor influencing the customer intention to use mobile banking service. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to present my individual research. It means a lot for me. So this is my presentation agenda. For introduction, the mobile banking refers to the application provided from the banking institution in order to facilitate the customer in terms of execute banking transaction. Even they want to transfer the money or pay bill, they simply log into the bank account through mobile banking devices. And recently, bank institution launched QR code or quick response code in order to transfer directly to the bank without putting the bank account number. With all of these things, the key element to become the Thailand 4.0, which is a cashless society, to reduce the cash in our society, because in every year the bank have to pay a lot for cash management. And this is my statement of the problem. I actually retrieved the statistical data from Bank of Thailand. In this site, it's actually the number of mobile banking users. As you can see in that, in every single month of 2016, the number of mobile banking is still increasing. And the other side is the comparison between mobile banking and internet banking user. It implies that the mobile banking surpassed the internet banking user. With all of these things, it means that the people realize that mobile banking are faster and easier much more than going to visit the branch or using the internet banking. With all of things, it becomes to my research objective. I would like to know the mainly key factor influencing the customer intention to use mobile banking service, as well as to investigate mean difference among generations toward using mobile banking service. However, I have read many articles, and I select this one to become to my conceptual framework. This is my conceptual framework. It consists of 4 hypotheses. The first hypothesis is the perceived ease of use toward perceived usefulness. I apply simple linear regression. And for hypothesis 2A and 2B, perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use as independent variable toward attitude toward to use mobile banking as dependent variable. I apply multiple linear regression. And for hypothesis 3A and 3B, I also use multiple linear regression as perceived usefulness and attitude toward intention to use. And the last hypothesis, I apply one-way ANOVA to determine the mean difference among generations toward intention to use. What I mentioned in previous slide, it can be summarized in this page. For my research methodology, the target population, I select the people who live in Bangkok area and having the experience about mobile banking service. And before I distribute the real questionnaire to the real respondent, I will test the pilot test with using the people, 30 people. And the practical way to collect data, I using the online questionnaire consists of 3 parts: screening question, demographic question, and measurement variable. The sample method, I use non-popularity as convenience sampling and quota sampling. And last one, sample size using 400 respondents. This is the result of pilot test. All of my variables are greater than 0.6. It means that all of my variables are reliable enough to distribute to the real questionnaire, to the real respondent. For demographic profile, the majority of respondents are male, and the rest of all, the age. As I mentioned earlier, I would like to know the mean difference in each generation. That's why I divided in each generation equal. And this one is the least hypothesis testing result. For hypothesis 1, the R-square equal to 0.179. It indicates that perceived ease of use can explain perceived usefulness about 17.9%. And the result of this hypothesis are supported. And according to the result, the perceived ease of use has significant positive on perceived usefulness as standardized coefficient about 0.424. For hypothesis 2A and 2B, the R-square equal to 0.318%, 3.18. It indicates that perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use can explain attitude about 31.8%. And it means that these hypotheses are supported. As you can see, the p-value or significant value less than 0.05. And as you can see that the perceived usefulness has the strongest standardized coefficient toward attitude. And the last one, these hypotheses are not the VAF less than 5, it means that there is no critical issue on multi-cognitive problem in this study. For hypothesis 3A and 3B, the R-square equal to 0.272. It implies that these hypotheses are supported, and the p-value less than 0.05 and VAF less than 5, it indicates that there is no critical issue on multi-cognitive problem in this study. For the last hypothesis, one-way ANOVA, as you can see that the significant value less than 0.05, it means that these hypotheses are supported. It means that in each generation, it quite different in perception about intention to use mobile banking service. What I mentioned, you can see that we can conclude that we have 3 groups because baby boomer, generation X and Y, Z. In generation Y and Z, it's quite similar. What I mentioned, it can be summarized on this page. All of my variables, all of my hypotheses are supported. For my recommendation, the perceived, the ease of use and usefulness are the key element for designing the mobile banking to convince the customer to use mobile banking service, as well as create marketing campaign in order to increase the number of users to use mobile banking rather than going to a bank branch. And don't forget to educate them on how it works, because for generation baby boomer, they not having the information on how it works. For my further study, the comparative study between countries would be interested and informative to make a comparison on factors influencing customer intention to use mobile banking service, as well as investigate more factors, which is maybe the trust and government law for my next research. Thank you so much.
Right, thank you for your presentations. Now, fintech technology using in finance has become a really hot topic recently, right? And for your research model, you are using technology acceptance, which is great. And your findings is also supporting with your analysis. However, how you should well, it's a suggestion that you might pay more attention to the discussion, because when we are saying that, well, if there is perceived usefulness, then obviously people will like to use it more. If it is perceived easy to use, then they would like to use it more as well. So the hypothesis is a little bit too certain. In order to improve it, we can discuss about the service that being offered in mobile banking. Is that the same with the traditional banking? And if it is the same, now what is the benefit of using mobile banking? For instance, if we transfer money from one account to another, you can go to the bank, you can fill out the slip and you hand it in to the clerk. But for mobile banking, what is going to be the process of it, the service process, is it the same? But then what is the benefit? So you can incorporate theories for product development, for instance, to discuss about, wow, what is the benefit now? The perceived benefit, but then what is it? And how is it going to improve the fintech of mobile banking in the future? Right?
Okay, thank you so much.
Back with your conceptual model. Okay, technically I see that you run the regression model 3 times, is it right? Yeah. Okay. Yes. If your main purpose, you want to compare which generations have the higher impact from the PU or PEU or attitude to use. There's another statistical technique you can use. One of that is smart POS. The smart POS will run at the same times for all of the factors, and then the result, when it also shows you the significant difference between all of your 4 demographic factors here. So I think that is better than you run it 3 times and then you run ANOVA. Then I don't think it have high contribution in your paper. So please, you can consider to use a smart POS and run it at the same time. And you see, I think that's more practical contribution for your paper. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for your recommendation.
So thank you. That's on for your presentation. Thank you. So we have. Okay. So one more question. Yes.
Have you considered the security of using the mobile banking in your model? Because sometimes people are worried about the security when they use the mobile rather than using the traditional way. So that's why they know that it's useful. They know that it's very easy to use, but they sometimes decided not to use it.
For my research, for my next research, I will adding from the security of mobile banking. For my next research.
Okay, so thank you. So before we end up, I have some very interesting figures that I observed from our section. So we have 3 papers from Vietnam and 2 papers from Thailand. And then we have, for the institution, 3 of the papers from IU and 2 of paper from Assumption University. Very interesting. And on the focus of this session in customer purchase intention and 1 paper in general consumerism. And then we also have 2 papers from bank sectors, 1 from service, healthcare, and 1 from organic food. That's very interesting. Previously, normally when we finish the session, you will receive the certificate, but this year they changed a little bit. So they will give you the certificate in room 1020, is it right? 1020, 1026. And now they also have the lunch and plenary session on Transformation Leaders Forum. So it means that we have lunch and we attend the session at the same time. So, so we finish this session, and thank you very much for your contribution and for your attention. Thank you.